Lotus. They're probably not a company you think about every day. They are a British OEM with Asian ownership that are in a period of transition, and they're not the only one. But while Jaguar is just taking a year-long sabbatical at being a car company, Lotus is still offering us products that we know them for, two-seater sports cars, while starting to introduce its new identity as an EV GT car maker. Not really sure about that, but what I am sure about is that this Emira, said to be their last gas-powered vehicle, is absolutely incredible. Lotus is ending their gas-powered era on a high note. Not only is this Emira the most fun car I have ever driven, but it is in my two-car solution. Let's dive into it. Now, if you're looking at buying or leasing a new car, but you're not quite sure which vehicle is right for you, I can help by curating a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Visit drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find a new car. A two-car solution, if you're not familiar, is just a framework in order to create the ultimate two-car garage by coupling two vehicles in the auto industry that complement one another. The Emira is in mine alongside the Lucid Air. But anyways, let's get back to this Emira. One of its strengths is the way it looks. This is an absolutely beautiful car that is designed like a baby supercar. This Emira First Edition sits at right around $100,000 for what is easily a $250,000 looking vehicle. Now, if you're styling a car like the Emira is styled, it needs to have the performance to back up its looks, and the Emira certainly does. There are two engine options available for the Emira. A Toyota-sourced 3.5-liter V6 that is supercharged by Lotus that makes 400 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. That engine actually has a special place in my heart because at the start of my automotive journalism career, my very first press car was a Toyota Camry TRD Pro with that same 3.5-liter V6. Not supercharged in the Camry, but it is that same 3.5-liter V6 from Toyota Sienna, Lexus RX, Toyota Camry, all of those Toyota products that is in the Emira with the V6, although supercharged by Lotus. The other engine option, and the one fitted to this Emira, is a Mercedes-AMG source 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that makes 400 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. So that's the same horsepower output, but more torque. So this Emira with the smaller 4-cylinder engine is actually quicker to 60, 3.8 in this Emira 2.0 versus 4.2 in the Emira with the 3.5 V6. Now, I am here to tell you something that might surprise you. This Emira with the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder is not an inferior Emira to the one with the V6. When Lotus initially said that they were coming out with the Emira and that it would have two powertrains, the V6 and the 4-cylinder, they originally said that the 4-cylinder was going to make about 360 horsepower, so down on horsepower. But now with this car actually coming out and actually producing 400 horsepower, these engines are neck and neck, and in some ways I enjoy driving this 4-cylinder more than I did the V6, except in one very important way. And that's the transmission. Now, when you get the 4-cylinder, the only transmission on offer is this 8-speed dual clutch, which is a great transmission. It is snappy, it is aggressive. When you're in sport mode, it keeps the car at a high RPM so that the turbo's always spooled so that you always have power. It sounds good on the upshifts. I have no qualms with this transmission. But when you get the V6, you can get a 6-speed manual. And this car, the ethos of it, it's light, it's a driver's vehicle, it has this nice hydraulic steering, it's very manual. A manual transmission is really at home in this car, and it's certainly a really fun manual transmission in the V6 Emira. I've driven it, it's awesome. I absolutely loved that vehicle. This is a good transmission. This car just really likes having a manual transmission, and it's unfortunate that you can't get one with this 4-cylinder because again, this is a really fun engine, and it's actually a good pairing with this 8-speed dual clutch. I just wish that you could get a manual transmission in this Emira 4-cylinder. And really that's the biggest difference between the 4-cylinder and the V6, other than the fact that there is an engine cover on the engine here in the 4-cylinder where the engine is exposed in the V6. Pretty much everything else is the same. This is a first edition Lotus Emira, which is the only such Lotus Emira 2.0 that will be available until like 2026. These cars have been very slow to come out. And it's very similar to the first edition Lotus Emiras with the V6. So you have pretty aggressive bucket seats that are automatic adjustable, automatic adjusting. They have 4-way power lumbar support, at least for the driver, so that's very nice. Just enough tech. in here. We have a touchscreen that does wireless Apple CarPlay. You can also do wired CarPlay, which is my preferred CarPlay method, and it projects beautifully. The climate controls are on the screen, but you do have a few shortcut buttons down below and dials. There's no volume knob. That's my biggest complaint about this interior, but everything is pretty easy to use, pretty familiar. Your start-stop button is under this red flap, which is pretty cool, and it's an overall simple interior, but this car really isn't about being luxurious, being high-tech. It's about how it drives, and boy, does it drive really well. All right, driving the Lotus Emira 2.0. Even though this is down 2 cylinders from the V6 supercharged Emira, it is no less powerful with 400 horsepower, and it actually makes more torque, 354 versus 310 in the V6, and this engine is no slouch. It is super punchy. Again, this car only weighs 3,200 pounds, so 400 horsepower is a fair amount, and it definitely feels very athletic, pushing it on Mulholland Drive, or whatever it is, here in Malibu, California. I am just absolutely blown away by how aggressive this engine feels. You know, I honestly don't feel like the engine itself is a step down from that 3.5 liter supercharged V6. It is so punchy, so responsive. There's definitely some turbo lag when you are down in lower RPMs. But if you flick it into sport mode or track mode, or you shift the gears yourself with the paddle shifters, the engine will always stay in a high RPM to give you all the power you could want. It is so impressive. And in terms of sound, this is actually one of the best sounding 4-cylinders I have ever driven. On the inside, it's fine, it's high pitched, it doesn't sound like a lawnmower for sure, but it really sounds good on the outside actually. There's lots of crackles and pops on the upshifts, on the downshifts there's some controlled backfires. It sounds really good, and you also get the blow-off valve whoosh of the turbocharger. When it spools up, you can hear it, and then when you let off the gas, it goes whoosh. It's awesome. It feels like it's right by your left ear, right from the air intake that's right beside you. It sounds absolutely phenomenal, and again, it is so responsive, especially when you're in sport mode, when it hangs on to high RPMs. The 8-speed dual clutch is also very responsive, very aggressive. In touring mode, you notice the turbo lag. It will keep you at lower RPMs to improve the fuel economy and to just make it a bit more softer of a driving experience, and actually this car does get pretty good fuel economy. It took me about an hour to get up to this canyon, and I averaged 26 mpg in that hour. So, you know, this is a light little car, very aerodynamic, and you could easily daily drive this car. Now, the main reason I would prefer the non-4-cylinder Emira, oh my god, this is so fun, is because you can get the six-speed manual with the V6. That is not on offer in this Emira 2.0. But know that you're getting a no less aggressive vehicle when you go for this Emira 2.0 versus the 3.5 liter supercharged V6. This car is so much fun, and it remains so planted. The steering and the chassis of this vehicle are truly its selling points, and truly why this is such an impressive vehicle. I've gotten a lot of comments on my other content with this vehicle. Well, you know, the Corvette Stingray, it's a little less than this vehicle, and it has more power, it has a V8, and it's faster. And yes, all of those things are true, but this car is more fun to drive. The Stingray is such a fun car, but on a canyon road like this, I'd much rather be in this Emira. You know, cars aren't all about how fast they go to 60 or how many cylinders they have. Obviously, that Corvette sounds better, but I think this car both looks better and drives better. This is so much fun. It is so at home. There is no other car that I would want to be driving this road on than this Emira. And God, this car, it's so good at cornering. I'm so impressed by how this car goes around a corner. I have so much confidence in the chassis of this vehicle, maybe a little too much confidence. and it's so much fun. This is where this car excels, but it's also fairly comfortable in here. I have Apple CarPlay projected right now. You can do wireless. I prefer wired. It has that option. You have a fully digital instrument cluster, which is fine. All the tech in here is fine. I don't love that the climate controls are through the touchscreen, but you also can adjust your temperature with a physical dial. There's no volume knob. That's really my only complaint on this interior, because otherwise I'm 6'2". I have plenty of headroom. Probably could fit in here with a helmet on, which is cool if you wanted to take this car on the track where it would excel. You have power seats with adjustable lumbar support, which is also nice. 4-way adjustable lumbar support, actually. This is the tour model of the Emira, so you can get it in sport or tour. So this is a little softer sprung than the Emira Sport, which you can get with both engine options. So this car is actually very easy to daily drive. No complaints whatsoever in living with this vehicle. There's not that much storage. That's really my only complaint, actually, is that there's not that much storage, but it is super comfortable. And if I go up into tour mode now, which there is a physical control for that, we upshift, it gets a lot calmer, and it's really a fairly comfortable car. And when I put my foot down, it takes a second to downshift, but the power is still right there. I am very impressed. Yeah, in tour mode, when you pull away from a stop, there's definitely some turbo lag when you put your foot down, but the car sorts itself out pretty quickly. It's just something to note if you are trying to pass a car and you are in the touring mode. Let me go back into sport mode, because that is where this car is more at home, especially on a road such as this. So yeah, the car, it's like comfortable and easy to live with day to day. Okay, that engine is actually crazy. We're in second gear going 46 miles an hour. You can upshift. There it goes. Very comfortable to live with. Honestly, you could easily daily drive this car, and I feel like this car is easier to get in and go in than the C8 Corvette. I know these cars really aren't head-on-head competitors. This is more competitive with something like a Porsche 718 Cayman or Boxster. But for the price, a lot of people are comparing the two. This isn't quite as fast as that car. It's not quite as powerful as a 4-cylinder versus a V8. But since everyone is comparing them, I will compare them to. The chassis of the C8 Corvette is one of its biggest strengths, but this car also has such a good chassis. And because this vehicle is so light, 3,200 pounds, it's so good. And the hydraulic steering, I absolutely love it. This is a super twisty section, and in this super twisty section of, I think we're on Decker Canyon Road, I would much rather be in this Emira. It's so light on its feet, it's so nimble, and its size is so much more at home on a tight canyon road than the Corvette. The C8 Corvette is a big car. There is no getting around its size, and while it is very planted and its chassis is phenomenal, Chevy did an excellent job with that car. I'm not trying to hate on the C8. This vehicle is so much smaller and thereby so much more maneuverable. You know, in traffic, I feel like I can just dart through any gap, put my foot down, and accelerate. And on these really tight, twisty roads, this Emira is so at home. I love this car. If I was buying a sports car, this is the sports car I would buy. Hands down, no question. It is an absolute hoot to drive in every situation. On the highway, it's comfortable. In traffic, you can cut through gaps and pass cars. And on this twisty canyon road, it is so at home. I love the Emira. It would definitely be part of my 2-car solution. I would probably go for the supercharged V6 just because you can get the 6-speed manual, but this 4-cylinder is no slouch, and it's not an inferior car to the V6. So that's the 2025 Lotus Emira. Because I drive so many cars, people often ask me what my favorite vehicle I've driven is. And for the past year, ever since I drove the V6 Emira, I have said Lotus Emira. That is how highly I think of this vehicle. And driving this 4-cylinder Emira for the past few days has only cemented this vehicle in my highest regards. This is so much fun to drive. You can daily drive it, it's beautiful, and again, it is the most fun car I have ever driven. This is such a good vehicle. I love it. I'm sad that Lotus is no longer going to be making gas cars, because wow, have they made a gem with this Emira. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.